Hello, dear viewers. It is me, Michael. You're probably wondering what I'm doing in the dark. Well, my friends, I am here to give you, let's just say, my first ever creepypasta reading. That's right. This is my first time actually reading a creepypasta. What do we do in this series? Well, I'll answer it for you. In this series, we're going to read every creepypasta there is in the entire world. That includes the original creepypastas, the crappy ones, the troll pastas, the spins, the good, the bad, and many more. Well, and let's just say, my dear viewers, it's gonna get real spooky in here. But I don't need to ramble on a little bit. What do you say we start our first creepypasta reading and get started? And what better way to start off a creepypasta reading than by reading a good creepypasta called Bubbles PSA, made by Chain Archive. Hold it! It has come to my attention that while making this video, I realized that the story was not made by Chain Archive. It was actually made by LafawndaPasta, who is a known creepypasta writer and also a creepypasta reader, like most creepypasta readers. So, yeah, the story was actually made by him, not the other one. The other one had re-uploaded this, to the last episode wiki. So, I guess if you want to check out his channel, it will be in the link in the description. And if you want to hear his story, and if you want to hear him read this story, which he also made, it'll also be in the link in the description. So, yeah, just had to clear that up and make that, and fix that oopsie. So, yeah, back to the video! Now, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. This was a public service announcement that only aired twice on Nick and Night throughout the month. It was sponsored by the Office of National Drug Control Policy, or the ONDCP for short, and funded by Nickelodeon themselves. The times that this PSA came up were randomized, but still very late at night, with one of which being 3 in the morning. I was one of the viewers. Each time it came up was unexpected, and I didn't get to see the first airing of it. Part of me was expecting someone from either organization to post it online. For some reason, they didn't, and I didn't get many pictures. The closest thing I could find was a rare still from a Twitter post, who clarified that the broadcast only aired 2 times, but that's about it. The PSA was about 3.5 minutes long. My guess is that based on the visuals and metaphors used, it was meant to bring awareness to meth abusers. It started with SpongeBob running with Patrick through jellyfish fields, having the time of their lives, before SpongeBob hears his watch beep. He takes a look at it and puts on a surprised look, before telling Patrick that his new bottle of bubble soup is coming in the mail, and he has to go home to give it a test drive. Patrick waves goodbye to him as he leaves. A bubble transition comes by, and it shows SpongeBob walking home to a decrepit-looking fish man, holding a small box with bubble formula and a cartoon clip as pipe inside. SpongeBob takes the box from the fish and shakes his hand vigorously before rushing inside. The fish walks off too, pulling out a fat stack of cash from his pocket and fondling it. It cuts to SpongeBob jumping into his buoy chair and reading the instructions that come with the bubble formula before pouring it into the pipe. Before he can even blow it, Gary interrupts him.
Wow! Oh, Gary, it's amazing! I got the new stick of the bubbles early. For some reason, you blow it with a pipe. But still, I can't wait. Wow! What do you mean I should refund it? It's just bubbles, Care Bear. Don't you worry.
The scene cuts to SpongeBob's wall with a calendar nailed to it. The page reads Saturday 14th, but then the page falls off and it shows Saturday 15th instead. As the page is falling off, you can hear SpongeBob inhaling and exhaling the pipe in the background. SpongeBob can then be seen walk into his house, groaning and tired, with all the very small barnacle on his face. He would sit down and scratch it for a moment before pulling out the bubble pipe, talking to Gary right next to him.
Bad day at work there. Crouch paid me with Jack nematodes. Squidward got on my case again. The customers were impatient as always. Whatever. Nothing a little TV and a bubble can't fix. Wow. I already tell you, they're just bubbles. They can't hurt me. But these are the stairs now all the time.
The same calendar sequence as before would show up, now switching to Monday 16th. SpongeBob could be seen sitting on his bio chair, eyes wide open while staring at his TV. The background music was more muffled than before, but it also had the ambience of commercials playing along with it. The room had a little exposure to light, the only light coming from SpongeBob's television. SpongeBob looked bad, with slight wrinkles covering his face and a few more small barnacles appearing compared to before. His teeth looked yellow, and his lower eyelids were filled with crust, presumably from the lack of sleep. Gary would slither in, looking tired as well. He would lift himself up and show his empty stomach to SpongeBob before meowing with malnourishment.
What? What do you want this time? Wow. Go get some food in the pantry or something. I don't know. Wow. Yes, there is food in the pantry. I made sure of it. Now let me watch TV. Wow. Fine. If it makes you shut up, I'll go check.
SpongeBob would then stand up and stumble for a moment, walking over to the kitchen while scratching his face repeatedly, the barnacle swollen. SpongeBob would then open the pantry, revealing that there is no food in here. He sighs and goes to check the fridge for food. Nothing in there either. He then turns to the poor, hungry snail and mutters,
I'll get more tomorrow. Be patient, Gary!
Sheesh! SpongeBob would then walk out of frame, leaving the starving Gary in the kitchen, alone in the darkness. Before SpongeBob could sit back in his chair, before SpongeBob could sit back down on his seat, he hears a knock on the door. Groaning with pure exhaustion, he would slink over to the door and open it to reveal a rather irritated Mr. Krabs.
Sponge me boy, me profits are plummeting, and you're not at the grill. I didn't tell you to have a day off. Get up your money, go make me some patties, boy. The customers are riding it.
No.
No! No! You're not telling me no! Are you asking to get fired, boy?
Get that motor at the register and make your slop, Eugene. I quit.
With that, SpongeBob slams the door in Eugene's face, muffling his angry yells and barks. Cut to the calendar again. This time, the walls behind it are beginning to mold with black smears. The date has changed to Tuesday, 17th. SpongeBob was now heavily wrinkled and had a horrific amount of barnacles littering in his face, with some black substance surrounding his lips. Presumably, his own saliva from the amount of bubbles he had blown. His teeth were beginning to slowly rot, with one front tooth being chipped. His eyes were still a sickly yellow, with his pupils shrunken into small squiggles. Gary was now laying on his side, gasping for air. His body, now much more starved than before. His TV was now reduced to a color pattern and a long beep. It cuts to outside of SpongeBob's house, with Sandy knocking on the door, and Squidward standing impatiently, with a face of pure annoyance. SpongeBob opens the door, annoyed just as much as Squidward is, and scratching his face vigorously.
What?
SpongeBob? It's been a hot minute. I'm worried about you, buddy. You haven't come on in days. What's going on?
That's what you came over for? To ask me that? To ask me that? To waste my time when I could be bubbling?
Whoa, slow down there, Bob. I just got here. What am I doing to you?
You're here to take my bubbles, aren't you? Aren't you? First, it was Gary whining about food. And Krabs came by barking at me to work. Now I gotta deal with you two barnacle heads!
SpongeBob, wait.
Before Sandy could even finish, Squidward's face scrunches up and turns red, with Steven before approaching SpongeBob and getting in his face, bumping his chest a few times.
I've been at the register, sweating like a sea dog, doing your work for 2 days straight. I keep getting screamed at by the customers if their order isn't exactly how they want it. I'm a cashier, not a frying cook. I can't take this anymore. Get back to work or I'll drag you there. Use pay brain.
SpongeBob's eyes went up for a moment, and Sandy gasped with fear, before he grabs Squidward's collar and puts his face against it.
Touch me. Touch me. Touch me like that again. I dare you. Do it. Do it. I'll kill you. Do it.
Squidward was now fearing for his life as he ran back to his house and opened the door. Sandy, still shaking from the reaction he had, would attempt to pull SpongeBob from his doorway, but he ended up getting picked up by her feet and thrown against the side of his house. Getting up and gently squeezing her back from the sudden hit. He looked back at SpongeBob as he walked off.
What happened to you?
With that, SpongeBob slammed the door, causing a few bubbles to shoot out and float upwards. However, the door would slightly creak back open, indicating that he slammed it to the point where it didn't close. He would make his way back to his chair, with Gary now limp and surrounded by flies. The camera zooms in on SpongeBob's disgusting face as he stares at the color pattern on the TV. Cut back to the calendar for the very last time. This time, the calendar will go 3 days forward, the wall behind it molding more and more, until finally, it stops on Saturday, 21st. It cuts back to SpongeBob, now sitting on the ground, staring at his TV, now replaced with static. His teeth and gums were now decaying to a horrible degree, with his pupils now messy, scratched lines. He had every condition that was mentioned before, outward much worse, except his clothes were now drenched with moist stains, his holes were dripping with sweat. He looked pale, and he looked as though he were drying up. Poor Gary was now reduced to a slithering mount of two-legged worms, acting as one living organism, and everything in SpongeBob's house was now stained in a dark substance. He would scratch his face again and again, not even stopping before letting out a crazy laugh. He turned to his pipe, a bubble solution, almost empty from how much he'd been bubbling before speeding. One more! One more! Just one more! I can't stop! I can't stop! SpongeBob would quickly grab the pipe and began blowing it. SpongeBob would quickly grab the pipe and began blowing it once again. But this time, he freezed for a moment and dropped before clutching his tie, lost in a reason of dark bubble, all with a rotten smile on his face. The background would play one long ringing noise, one that you would hear if someone fired a shotgun right next to you. SpongeBob would fall over, his arm extended over the floor, with his yellow, crusty eyes rolling backwards. This would go for a few seconds, the view getting slightly blurrier, until SpongeBob's door could be heard open. Patrick's voice would call out,
SpongeBob, you there, buddy? Hello?
A light from the doorway would shroud SpongeBob's dead state. A gasp and scream from Patrick bellow out through his house. Then, Patrick's scream is suddenly cut off. Everything cuts to black. Before the sponsor card came up, crediting LNDCAP and Nickelodeon together, light yellow text would fade into the screen. No sound, no music, nothing. Before one of the Nick and Night sitcoms faded into view, ending the PSA.
All it takes is one pop. Life isn't a cartoon. Remember, kids, don't ever use crystal meth. Otherwise, you'll be just like me.
And that, my dear friends, was Crystal Bubbles PSA. What do I think about the story? It's actually pretty good. Yeah, imagine that. A creepypasta that is actually good. Let me explain why I love it. Okay, so to put it short, I mean, what else can I say? There were no hyper-realistic blood. No, I'm never gonna see this show again. You know, all the cliches garbage. It's just a good creepypasta in the sense a good message. The only question is why SpongeBob of all things? I mean, sure, SpongeBob would never do this type of shit, but hey, if it wants to send a good message in the style of SpongeBob, then I'm all in for it. This story gets in 10 out of 10 for me. Well, that's my first creepypasta reading. I hope you all enjoyed it. Make sure to give this video a like and a comment below. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel whenever you see me read another creepypasta which is good or shit. But until then, this has been Michael, and I'll see you in the next video.